folks. Once again, I'm interviewing my friend Larry Silver. Larry, it's great to have you on once again.
Thanks so much for having me, Alex. It has been a joy.
We talked a little bit about your story earlier. We talked a little bit about the books you've written, but now this is really the climax of where the last two conversations have been going. I kept cutting you off. This is where you wanted to go, but I kept shoving you away from doing this conversation, which is what is ministry? That's your thing. It's ministry, always doing ministry, other people doing ministry. First of all, let's define terms. What is ministry? What does that mean?
Ministry is seeing needs and meeting those needs. And it could be that you yourself don't have the resources or the grace to meet that need, but hopefully you're part of a group of people that you can bring that grace forward for that situation. I have kind of a fun word for you, and it's the word educe, E-D-U-C-E. And it means to bring forth the grace out of a person, the gift that God has given them out of the person to meet the need. So it's not really just about Larry Silver. It's about the group of people that I'm with. Can we, as a body of believers, meet the needs in our community or in a given situation? And it's just amazing what you can do. My associate pastor of a millennial church that I'm an elder at, just one of the things that I do, he decided to clean up the city of Dayton. He became friends with the mayors and the city officials. We gathered about 2,000 people and went out for about 3 hours. We had 7,000 homes that were foreclosed and abandoned homes, 7,000. And we went out in 3 hours and 6,000 man hours and clean those homes up, clean the alleys, clean the streets. It was such a success that the mayor and all of the town said, first of all, you saved us about $500,000 in cleanup fees and taxes. And secondly, you're going to do this more than just once a year. So he just keeps serving and bringing churches and believers together just to do a simple service like picking up and cleaning trash. That's just a small example. If a community of believers get together, what a great impact we can have to save the city money, to create goodwill. The gospel and Jesus was shared in so many ways. It says, preach Christ, and if necessary, use words. I believe that's true. I like to use words. I'm very evangelistic. That's one of my gifts. But I would rather people see the love of Jesus and experience friendship with me and then say, why are you different? What makes you tick? How can you come through the suffering that you've come through and still be joyful? And that's a mark that you're a disciple. That doesn't come naturally to the world. So they have to see Jesus in us. And then when it's necessary, we can use words to explain the hope that we have, like Peter says. So that's just my quick definition of ministry. But secondarily, I want to say that don't go out and try to be all things to all people. Try to be yourself. Use your gifts and the grace that God has given you. Do that one thing that you can do where you're placed so that you're responding to the Spirit in opportunities that He brings to you. Another example is pray for those things. Pray that God brings you people and opportunities to be a minister. And that's what I've been doing for years, praying for that so that God does the heavy lifting. Does that make sense?
It does, but as a good host, I want to give you a little bit of pushback.
Okay.
Doesn't Paul also say that to the Greek I was a Greek and to the Jew I was a Jew, and so I could be all things for all people so that all might hear the gospel? I mean, I kind of butchered that verse, but you might be able to get it. So you're saying that, Paul's saying, we should be this thing or we should be that thing for the purpose of telling people the gospel, but you're saying that we should focus on who you really are. Which is it?
No, I think that's a good question. We're not trying to be a chameleon or deceptive with people, and I don't think Paul was. What he was saying is it's not about me. It's about the people that I'm ministering to. Can I really listen to them? Can I really understand them? Can I really let go of my own prejudice and my own way of doing things? That's a restatement of what Paul is saying, but in language that is more relevant for our culture. Even though I'm a Jew, I let go of my Jewishness. If I'm talking to a Gentile, I don't try to convert them to Judaism or to the Jewish culture. I want to hear in their own words what their challenges are. Why are they struggling with faith? Do they understand faith? Do they understand the gospel? But it's coming from them. We're focused on them. We're not focused on ourselves. We're not even focused on the message of the gospel. We're focused on them, and based on that focus, hopefully with love in our hearts, their heart opens to us. And when their heart opens to us, now they're seeing Jesus in us, and that is becoming all things to all people. An example from 2 weeks ago. It took years for this to happen, but all three of our neighbors, our two next door neighbors and our neighbor just across the street on the left, came to our cabin. We have a second home that we rent, but we use it about once a month. All three neighbors came to be with us for the weekend. None of them are really strong believers in Jesus. One was a Hindu couple from India. The other one, not involved with religion. And the third one, Catholic, but nominal. I think they have faith. I give them credit, but don't have necessarily the born-again Christian zeal and understanding of the Bible that a lot of believers do. But they were focused on talking about bourbon and money and their children and all the worldly topics. And we just had a great time with them, talked about that, drank a little bit of alcohol with them. I didn't get drunk. Actually, no one got drunk. But we didn't try to act pious. We didn't try to control the conversation to where we wanted it to go. And I mean, if I showed you the feedback after the weekend from my neighbors, you would say, man, that was an A+ slam dunk. But it literally took years before my neighbors got to know us and had a desire to be with us and to learn more about us. And, you know, we're not done with them. We still have a ways to go. But we even learned from them. We learned some good things from them 2 weeks ago being together. So that's an example of a relationship that takes time, where we're becoming, you know, what they need us to be in the gospel, personified in our, but we have to be ourselves. We can't be fake. We can't put on a religious facade. We can't act like we're better than we are. Sometimes we have to confess, you know, we have struggles in our marriage. We have struggles with our children. We're the same as you guys. We're no better. But, you know, one thing we do have is God's grace. We have eternal life. We have a perspective in our mind that can do and go further than someone who is not of faith. We have that. And we don't want to lie about that and act like it's not there, because that's a false humility. We have that. We have Jesus. And I believe, Alex, Jesus really makes a difference.
So I want to talk a little bit more about two schools of thought that evangelists have. I mean, for what you've told me, you clearly are in this one category, which is you develop relationships with people, you love on them, and then when the time is right, you share the gospel, you share your testimony, you do not expect to convert them. Yeah. The other school of thought, the best person I can think of that personifies this would be Ray Comfort, more of the Living Waters ministry, and he's more. There's like a 5-step program. You can meet anyone on the street, say, basically, you know, convict them, explain to them that they've fallen short, and then reveal to them that they can be redeemed through Jesus. I mean, it's something along the lines of 2 minutes. You know, you could potentially convert someone, and he's record on video conversations he's had. What's your response to that kind of evangelism?
I like Ray Comfort. I believe that what he's doing is great. I actually can do that kind of ministry. I'm not afraid to share the gospel in the subway, stand up. I'm not afraid to preach at a university like our mutual friend Jorge Pina does. I'm not afraid of any of that, but 85% of people who come to faith is through a trusted relationship that they have. 85%. I'm not against reaping in the 15% that I don't have a relationship with, but more and more, as we're in a postmodern Christian era, Alex, and as the gospel is not coming across as relevant and church is not being as relevant to a secularized society, relationships are becoming more and more important. I wouldn't doubt that the 85% has gone up to 88 or 90% of people who come to a genuine faith is through relationships. So although I would love to reap low-hanging fruit by just preaching at people, and like Ray does, asking them questions and showing them that they've broken one of the 10 commandments, I think that's brilliant, because most people will admit that they've at least stolen, lied, done something sinful, made mistakes, been disobedient.
Looked at someone with lust.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all guilty of breaking those commandments, but just convicting someone or even putting the fear of hell in someone doesn't necessarily, in our secular society, move them a step closer to the kingdom of God. It could, if in their life they're a little bit closer to the kingdom and a little more open to God, His Word, and His Spirit. But we're finding people more and more closed, more and more secularized. Their world philosophy, their philosophy of life is not including God and His Word as it did the generation before mine, where that was much more accepted, where people were churchgoers. Millennials, I think only about 3 out of 10 now are going to church. And so there's a lot of people that are done with religion, done with church. They're still open to faith. They still think God is possible. But the religious part and the institutional part, they're not open to that. So when they see someone preaching, that's religion, that's like church, that's something that's foreign to them. They think it's ridiculous. But if you love them and get to know them, and they admit to you things aren't going too well in one area or another, and they see that you're listening, that you care, like I've heard the saying, people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. I've always liked that expression.
Yeah.
Once they know how much you care, then some knowledge from you can be transmitted to them, imparted to them in love. I like this verse. We were delighted not only to share the gospel of God with you, but our lives as well, being affectionately desirous for you. So we share the gospel, but what we're really giving is of ourselves, is our lives. That's how one-on-one discipleship takes place. A lot of people have come into the kingdom, but they're shallow. They're not going on with the Lord. They're not growing. They're not becoming disciples and growing in the Christian life. And it's like we have all these stillborns. We fear and scare people into the kingdom, but they're not going from babyhood through puberty to become mature adults who can reproduce in others the same things they've learned themselves.
Larry, thank you so much for all that. I mean, but there's no way that I could have possibly interviewed you to summarize everything you had to say on ministries. You've written several books on it. But nevertheless, I think this is a pretty good place to jumpstart people who have never even considered that idea. So I want to personally thank you so much for sharing so many wonderful insights.
You're welcome, Alex. Thanks for the privilege of being on your show. And look forward to getting to know you and working together for the kingdom.
Absolutely, Larry. I look forward to working with you too. Folks, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and then also share this video with your friends. I'd greatly appreciate it because this message is not, I mean, I really hope you didn't watch it just for me. This is a really, really important message for every person who claims to be a Christian. So if you're a Christian or not a Christian and you're watching this, send this to your Christian friends and, you know, kind of slap them on the wrist and, you know, show them, hey, guys, what you up to? In any case, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Larry, so much. God bless you all.
Blessings.